Blackberries are one of my favorite crops to grow, right? They're so tasty during the summertime, juicy and sweet, and they're an easy crop to grow, right? Fairly low maintenance. But there are certain diseases and conditions that we want to be aware of with these blackberry plants. And I'm going to discuss one right now. So basically with these blackberry crops, we can have the challenge of WDD or white drupelet disorder. So the blackberries are really like a aggregate fruit, right? They're you can kind of think of them in a way like a multi-fruit. They have many little fruits combined into one large fruit. So they are related to other drupes like cherries and plums. Just kind of imagine like a bunch of different cherries lumped into one multi-fruit type thing, right? That's an oversimplification, but it's basically kind of what we're dealing with here. And so the WDD is that some of these fruits or fruitlets, drupelets on the aggregate fruit are not able to fully ripen. You know, in a randomized fashion, some of them will be more of a whitish, really light pink, or tan, light brown, grayish in color, and that is one of the main symptoms. And it kind of looks similar to like sun scald on peppers, where the sun can damage some of these pepper fruits, making them or parts of the peppers look like a lighter tan type thing. And then of course we want to make sure that we are in fact dealing with WDD and not damage from other insects like stink bugs or even different diseases like the anthracnose, however you say it, where some of the symptoms can be similar but they are not the same as WDD. So we want to make sure that we're able to differentiate and positively identify that this is the problem, because other problems will call for a different set of solutions. So of course, as I mentioned, some potential causes is the sun scald. So that would be too much access to light, especially maybe certain forms of that light like UVB, or even in the visible light spectrum. Sometimes excessive amounts of this light availability specifically on the fruit will cause WDD to really occur in high numbers. But it's also important to understand that the anthocyanins, they require UV light and light in the visible spectrum as well to be able to be produced in the plants. So we do need a good amount of sun, but we don't want too much, right? Especially that's directed on the fruit. Additionally, we can also see with high heat, low humidity, and a lot of wind can also create conditions that are more conducive to developing WDD. Also, different varieties of blackberries can be more susceptible than others. We have the Apache and the Sweetie Pie, which can be particularly susceptible, especially in certain conditions, to getting the WDD, right? Because all of these are basically stresses, right? So WDD is not a disease, it's not a pathogen or anything like that. It's just a form of stress on the plant. In a way, it might almost be like an autoimmune condition in a way for like a human, where there is no single pathogen causing that problem. It's the body or the plant that's responding to too much stress in either its internal or external environment. Also, low nitrogen is a potential intensifier of this challenge. Of course, some of these can be combined too, right? Where sun scald might come from too much sun, but it also might be really hot during that time, right? And you might have really low humidity. You might be in a drought, right? And then that would make nitrogen less available, right? Either in its soluble form, especially if you're having a drought, or the microbial available nitrogen too is probably going to be not as active in the soil profile, because there's going to be less microbial activity going on and less production of all these amino acids and stuff because of the lack of water, right? All organisms need water, and if that water is not present in enough of a quantity, then we're going to see likely more of this problem, right? Basically, when we talk about solutions and different ideas of how to improve things or prevent these issues from happening, we want to make sure that we are supporting the opposite, right? So if we have too much sun, we want to make sure that we are applying more shade, right? Maybe it's shade cloth, especially on smaller operations, but if you have a larger operation and you're growing for profit for productivity, a shade cloth might be too expensive and too labor intensive to set up and use, right? So we can also use different types of planting, like intermittent canopy. I've done a lot of work with this staghorn sumac, which can be really good to add some intermittent shade, and it's also in a different plant family from the blackberries, so I don't have to worry about the spread of like diseases within plant families so much. You can use other trees as well. I know sumac will sucker from the roots, so you will have to weed that out and prune it and harvest it as biomass. That's what I do. Done a few different videos on that at this point. And then we also have different options with trellising, right? So historically, the T-post or T-bar trellising had been used. Now orienting that in a specific way in terms of like cardinal directions, right? Like if it's more south or east, that may make the fruits more susceptible to sunlight, right? Or hillsides, or where the shade is on the landscape. So all those different types of things you want to consider, especially with the T-post trellising system, because sometimes the fruits, depending on how it's done, can be more susceptible to sun scald. And also we want to make sure that we are pruning well, but not too much. We want to make sure that there's enough other vegetative biomass on there to be able to protect some of those fruits from too much sun during parts of the day. And then there's also the trellising system called the RCA, and that's the acronym for it. I can't remember what the words stand for. Something cross arm, rotating cross arm, I think. So basically what that is where you can actually take the trellis and it's connected to like metal parts and hinges and stuff, where you can actually like change the angle of the trellis depending on the day or the season, whatever the case may be, and that can in some instances help to prevent some of the fruits from having too much access to light, and it can also help to prevent frost damage as well earlier in the season. So it has some other different benefits associated with that. Now sometimes when we do have more shade that's cast on either the plants and or the fruits, this can also somewhat slightly decrease the sugar levels in the fruits. We also have overhead irrigation that has been documented to be helpful with that as well. But we of course want to make sure that we're not irrigating too close to evening, especially if it's overhead, because that shade will be because that water will be cast on the leaves, right? And that could cause some fungal or microbial issues for the plants if they're going to be wet over the night. But overall, it's important to make sure that the plants are getting a good amount of water. Of course, you don't want to give them too much water either, because that may also decrease the sugar levels in the fruit, right? It may dilute them. And then also making sure that we have a good windbreak that can help to keep more humidity, more moisture in the environment. Maybe if you have a wall of trees or shrubs from in the predominant wind direction, that can help to kind of curb some of those challenges. But definitely the two big ones are going to be the shade and then the overhead irrigation, that are really going to kind of help with controlling the WDD, at least with the information that we have available to us currently. So, and then just for clarity, the fruit that has been susceptible, that has been affected by WDD, is still commonly regarded as edible. I've eaten them, but they're just not really marketable. And flavor and, well, probably by extension nutrition can be negatively affected by the presence of WDD. And then additionally, I have attached some links down in the description. One was a scientific article going through some of the different blackberry varieties and how they're affected by shade and some of these other things. Very well written, comprehensive article in my opinion. Definitely worth checking out. So definitely feel free to check out those links. Thank you so much for checking out this video on the Blackberry and the WDD. At this time, at least, there may not be concrete evidence of exactly what causes it, but what we can do is we can look at correlations of certain weather patterns, moisture availability, etc., with blackberry production, and if those white spots, those tan spots, show up on more often in those conditions on the blackberries or not. And then from that can help to give us a better idea, better understanding of how to grow these blackberry crops more effective, because ultimately, or especially if you are growing to sell, you want to make sure that you are selling the maximum amount of best quality blackberries out there. So thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in a future video. Take care.